Okay, we are now live. We are still doing the setup stuff. So I'm getting the Twitter link here. Throw it in the chat for you guys and everybody else. Let me throw it on chat for you guys. Oh yeah, don't click. You know, there's this delay. Yeah, this multicasting thing is great but imperfect. I'm gonna post it on the Telegram. I'm gonna throw it on my LinkedIn. I'm gonna reply. People like all the platforms seem to prefer you to put links in the comments, so circulated it on LinkedIn. I got the link for Jamie. Someday we will streamline this whole process. Here we are. Okay, 10 viewers and climbing. You know, those tend to skew Twitter folks. So hello, folks of Twitter and everybody else. Very shortly here, we will go into everyone's. I see the post on Twitter, Bob. Thank you. Let me tweet it out also.
What is the correct term for a user of X these days?
Xers?
Yeah.
Gen X.
I feel like the joke is like if it was tweets before and now it starts with X, is it sheets? which we call it. All right, let's just have at it. So we will start with tell me about I don't know how much time each of you has spent in Denver. I would probably say I've been there maybe 5 times in my life, thereabouts. Tell me about the city itself, weather, altitude, vibe, food, everything outside the conference stuff. How was all of that?
And I've been probably a similar amount of time, so maybe Victor's impression would be a little more.
Maybe this doesn't say much about the city. I was pretty sure this was my first time visiting Denver, and then as soon as we landed and kind of, as I was taking an Uber to the hotel, I realized I had been there before. So maybe it just it reminds me a lot of having spent more time on the West Coast. It reminds me a lot of like Portland or those kind of cities. It's a really kind of chill, Pacific Northwest kind of vibe, I would say, to it. Right? The weather was great, very dry, way warmer than we expected. I was coming in from Toronto, so I had my full winter gear on, ready to hit the slopes, and it was like more like light jacket weather than winter weather.
Yeah, very, very blue skies and warm. It was great, actually. Quite a contrast for this time of year.
Sure.
But
remarkable meals, not so much. It's kind of like hearty, normal American food. I can't remember any of
like I had some good barbecue. Ironically, probably the best meal we had was at Yardbird, where there's a location not too far from you. So, it was a good meal. But yes, I think we were all overate. Bob was the only one with room for dessert after that one. So, but generally, I will say I was somewhat disappointed with the coffee. I was not able to.
It would be good hipster coffee, right?
Yeah, like it was decent. there are a number of roasteries there roasters that are over there, but I didn't really get a chance to go to them. So coffee, around where we were was not all that great.
But yeah, generally food I thought was really pretty bad. Like the worst of American.
Yeah.
Where you just go in, you're expecting something good, and it's just like really mediocre, massive portions, like really crappy, unhealthy, like baseline standard.
What the problem was, Bob? I want to check in on this. So the dispensaries, the last I was there, which is at least a couple years ago, omnipresent. Had you visited one, maybe the quality of the food wouldn't have.
I think it required more research than was done. It was quite, eat, let's see what's kind of close.
Yeah.
Versus like, okay, let's get in an Uber for 15 to 20 minutes to get to somewhere that maybe it's got some better options.
But it was serious hipster vibe, I think.
Yeah.
But Pacific Northwest hipster, Portland.
Yeah. Now that I think of it, it does kind of feel like Seattle when I've been there. A little more American heartland, but it's, big intersection. Seattle with a little bit of
but it is beautiful. I mean, like you look around, you see mountains all around you, like pure blue skies. It was just like, I will though admit that I forgot about the altitude, and I think the first day I hit the gym, I normally do a 10-minute jog, and after a minute I was like, oh my God, something's wrong, I'm passing out. And I realized, oh no, we're at altitude. That's just something happening. So
a friend of mine told me she the way she knew the altitude was having effect is normally she'd have 2 drinks in a night out, and she had one, and she was quite loopy afterwards.
Yes.
It's funny how delicate the we vary one parameter a little bit, there's 4% less oxygen or whatever it is. I don't know the number offhand, and it's quite different. Makes it hard to live. All right, Denver.
Yeah, it's just staying with the sort of the hipster vibe. Lots of old warehouses converted and graffiti-ish sort of stuff. Sort of sketchy looking but kind of cool places.
Everyone's doing Bushwick these days,
right?
Basically, yeah, exactly.
And the other thing I did notice is you've got quite a lot of vacant plots. I was reading when I went a few years back, they did a giant urban clearance in the middle in the 70s.
Yeah.
It's kind of slum clearancey kind of thing. Sort of here we're gonna, we'll get rid of that, and there'll be shiny buildings everywhere. It's gonna be, utopia, and it took quite a while.
Well, there was still a lot of construction downtown when we were there, right? The whole downtown corridor.
Yeah,
still...
I mean that's specific to that main strip and that's the same last year. So it's been going on for quite a while.
I had heard it's one of those housing markets that just went like this. I don't know if that's a continued phenomenon or not. That kind of preceded the big purported tech migration of the pandemic and so on, where Austin popped, although it has very much come back to earth. Miami popped and has not just yet. But I think that in the 10 years before, it was going crazy in Denver. I don't know what the current state is. Maybe they've built enough that it's slowed down. But yeah, all right, into the conference. I don't know, general impressions. My
official Eat Denver shirt.
Oh yeah. I almost was gonna dig through and find my Buffacorn socks, but the viewing public needs to see the Buffacorn socks. But I like the graffiti feel. That's a good one.
Yeah,
it's quite different to the styles for the previous years.
Yes, well, they did sell stuffed whales. Kind of teddy bears. I was going to bring you one. Sport whales. I did get stopped because I got I bought the shirt with free sport, and I guess it looked like some dangerous kind of in the
carrying it through the
carrying it through the security. So you've been to the conference before. What were your impressions, or should I start?
Yeah, you go first. Again, it's fresh for you, right?
So first time at the conference, it was kind of spread out. We were just at DevCon where I think the thing is that at DEF CON, sort of the energy was at a fever pitch, and it was very busy, didn't feel that way at ETH Denver.
When exactly was DevCon? I remember for November.
November.
Was
November.
it post-election or pre-election?
Presumably it was just after the election results came out.
Yeah.
So like people were really hyped. People were really excited. I kind of felt like, it was sort of muted. Everything was a little bit quieter. Like every time I got in an Uber, someone was like, "Oh, there aren't as many of you as there have been in the past." So it did feel much quieter in that way. And I'm not sure if it's because of the Libra, BitByte thing. I also heard that there was another, there was the first consensus in Hong Kong just before this conference. So I think some people were kind of making choices. Like there seemed to be fewer international people attending this one than usual.
I do know a couple of people went to the Hong Kong conference, and a bunch of them said that they would go to ETH Denver, and maybe it's just like the conference schedule is just so brutal. If you try to hit all the big ones, then maybe they're just like, let me just hang out somewhere instead.
Yeah, I mean, I think a difference between those two, though, as well, is DevCon is quite unique in terms of the core content, like being really like well attended and high quality. Obviously, like DevCon has got a broader focus than just Ethereum mainnet, but it has, it really is. It's the Ethereum Foundation's event with however many. 10 was it 10 or 20,000? I can't remember.
I think it was closer to 20,000. I think it was like 16. I heard over 16, so closer to 20,000.
And then you had a huge main venue for that. It's like two by two city blocks, maybe 4 city blocks, kind of the building, and it's all connected, and it's like an airport kind of sort of walking between gates. Journey time will be 10 to 15 minutes to.
Yeah, I got in. There are days I put in 20,000 steps just walking from the conference, and like you said, the general. It was also the environment was more conducive to more serious talks. Like they were kind of in rooms where all the stages at ETH Denver were kind of this like open air kind of places.
So your DevCon experience, you could just be at the main venue, and that would be your day. Like there was enough like going on and areas and so on. But what you had at Denver, and it was like this at CC in Brussels last year, is you're going kind of for that event, but it's just so fragmented. You've got hundreds or over 1,000 side events over the course of 4 or 5 days, and sometimes that the main venue just ends up getting kind of hollowed out because so many of the people, even if they're primary speakers or whatever at the venue, it's like maybe they're just coming in for the talk and then they're off again to whatever their own side event or.
And the venue is kind of far, like a little bit outside the city. And most of my meetings were downtown. Like I was kind of running from hotel to hotel. So, most of the meetings that I was just meeting certain people were there, and there was less need to be at the main conference itself. Whereas it was very different in Bangkok. Like most of my meetings were around the event itself because it was very centrally located.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, the main ETH Denver venue, like a large chunk of it is an expo hall, like rows and rows of stands and stalls and things, and many of the stages are kind of like in with those, and you've got quite a lot of ambient noise. So it's very
and not good coffee on site.
Not good coffee. That's the one piece of feedback we'll tell John. Like
exactly, we need better coffee on site.
The prices make the coffee better.
Yeah, the coffee on site at DevCon was not that great. Though
where it was quite good. okay, Token 2049 in Singapore, they'd have these stations. They would make you like a cappuccino right there, or also like or fresh juice. You like a fresh squeezed OJ, fresh watermelon juice. It was spectacular.
Sounds good.
It was an expensive ticket, but you gotta up your game up, conference organizers in general. Question.
I don't know if they've said official attendance figures, but many people said that there were less people this year than last year in Denver, and I think that would correspond with how it felt to me.
I wonder about the yield. I think in private conversation, John said they had like the most speaker submissions ever, but maybe like people sort of lost energy on the, like maybe bought a ticket or, and didn't go or what have you.
And it's possible people were there, but they just didn't go to the event. Like,
right. So many side events, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow, it depends on the logistics of the city, but somehow consolidation is better for these things. But, you maybe just run out of spaces for 20,000 people to go.
Yeah.
Another thing to say as well is like, even though it's called ETH Denver, it's totally not Ethereum only, like at all. It's very, very broad now. Pretty much anyone you could think of was there, had a store, were talking. I even saw a Ripple one, a little Ripple one in the corner, which I think I've not seen Ripple.
They're just coming back into Denver. It. Yeah, exactly.
Let us not hate on the Ripple and too much in public. I think they've been blessed to some degree by the administration and around for some time. But this is funny. Yeah, I think they're somehow still here at kind of long last. Ripple,
they're number 3 now on they're the number 3rd largest.
It's often spoken of on crypto Twitter how somehow like Ripple and Cardano are like the ones that got in the mind of like the normies, the cab drivers, the dentists, what have you. And I think that's just still the case. I definitely have, like realtor friends who like when the prices are up again, ask about Ripple. This is an achievement in its own right. But yeah, it's kind of funny that they're at ETH Denver.
Well, so here's another funny thing about those two. They've got really low unit prices.
Like, so it feels like the token's cheap. Yeah.
It's that, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. Yeah. But I honestly think it makes a difference.
It's like splitting shares.
Yeah. Right? So my XRP is now 250, but like only less than a year ago, it was like less than $1. And it's like, is it going to hit $1? It's going to hit $1. Wow. It's 150. It's 150. Yeah. It's amazing. And then Cardano is right now is sitting at 97 cents.
Well,
so again,
Doge also fits into that model.
Doge, 20 cents for a Doge. Tron, 24 cents.
Yeah. Huge supplies, but very cheap.
So yeah, all of those, like honestly, I think it does make a huge difference. It's so stupid, but there we go.
The life we chose.
Yes.
Let me ask you the ratio in your mind of like builders to BD and how that compares with different conferences. I felt like ETH Denver at least started very builder. I don't know what it is lately.
Yeah. I guess another thing to say as well is that the kind of hackathon is a really huge part of ETH Denver. I didn't really go and look at it. But,
I didn't. Yeah.
But they have a huge hall with probably thousands of participants there. It might well be one of the largest on that score. But yeah, in the expo hall, there's obviously many projects doing many things. Some of them useful, some of them maybe not so useful.
For the ones I've been to, they had an expo hall, but sort of barely. It was like all builder at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very different from those first couple of years, that's for sure. Yeah. I think it was 2022 that they moved to this current venue, which is I forget what it's called, like Western agriculture.
Yeah,
it's like
it's like a farm thing, right?
Like,
Like,
yeah,
I can imagine horses. And
yeah, it's
being walked
horses and
around.
livestock and I don't know, cow competitions or whatever you're doing. Don't know if they do any rodeo, but it's that kind of a venue. So it is, very large and sprawling.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, like, I didn't go to the hackathon area, but just kind of walking through the main exhibition hall. Like, I had a lot of people who were manning booths, like, "Are you a builder?" Like, kind of coming to me. Like, so I felt like maybe they were, I mean, maybe that felt more like that there were fewer this year than normal.
Yeah. Okay. I would assume more builders at DevCon as a ratio, or do you think about?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
More like, for us, by us kind of builder.
Yeah, and I mean the other difference there is DevCon very intentionally. There's no expo hall.
I see.
Right.
You have got sort of stalls in various areas, but they're mainly like, well, hey, here are the client dev teams, or like here's a community DAO group, or regen corner, or it's not paid to play at all.
And
which
also,
is very rare.
Also, the nature of the talks at DevCon were very technical.
Yeah.
Like whereas they seem more like pitches at ETH Denver, right? Like a little bit more pitchy than, and there were more like collaborative panels, like, some big topic like proof of personhood, and there would be a bunch of different companies represented and talking about how they're resolving it. So.
Yeah. Okay, so the DevCon culture is still more builder, more academic, more European. You can't have a conference without pitches in the United States.
Well, I'm very infrastructure focused on DevCon, right? Yeah. Like here, it's more like pitching projects kind of things.
Yeah. Well, and I mean the other thing there with DevCon is the ETH has got a massive war chest. It doesn't have to be a commercial undertaking. Like maybe it's a little bit profit making, maybe not, but they don't need to kind of sell themselves a little bit for not selling yourself is a bit hard. They don't have that need.
They don't have financial pressure.
They don't need that financial pressure now.
Yes, they can subsidize the events for the builders.
Well, and also by switching it to an every 2-year cycle, I think that kind of builds the excitement. Like people put that in the calendar first, and then fit everything else around it, right? So that's sort of the feeling I got. But it is that moment that, and DevCon got very lucky because that was a moment when everyone was like, hey, like crypto won the US election. That was like the theme of DevCon, right? And the excitement that kind of spread throughout that.
Gotcha. So like kind of mood in general, we talked a little bit about this, are people bullish or bearish? Do you hear price talk, or how much price talk do you hear? One thing I've experienced is I had hoped that I would just stop paying attention to what was going on politically right after the election, because there's nothing you can do before and there's nothing you can do after, but it's like the whole enterprise is kind of like whichever way it goes, like watching a train wreck or a cannonball hit a comically large belly or something like that. But I haven't really been able to stop watching, and so I wonder if this has happened to everyone in crypto, or how much do you hear just about all of that stuff?
Well, yeah, I guess a lot of people were like, "Woohoo, crypto president, pump our bags! This is going to be like such an amazing takeoff," and then it's like. No,
not exactly.
Not really. No.
Well, and I want to preface the timing thing sort of worked against ETH Denver, like in the opposite way. So coming into this, you had the Libra whole blow up, meme coin, Solana, and you had the BitBite hack, right? So that was fresh on people's minds. And then in the middle of the conference, you had that. Ethereum Foundation Sylvan horticulture announcement, which did not go over well. Like, people were not happy about that. But at the end of it,
let me see if I can find the. It's like silviculture or something.
Silviculture was like, tending the infinite garden of Ethereum kind of thing, and that went over like a lead balloon, like amongst when it came out. Like people were visibly angry about that. Like, what is this about? When we should be worrying about the price or something. Not that I necessarily agree with them. I'm just describing the reaction to it.
I'm trying to get that picture that had the like circle of life.
Yes. Summoning circle.
If either of you find that, please share a screen. I'm trying to get it up. Images. Oh, I think I found it.
Oh, okay. Let me see if it's as bad as I remember it. But like when I saw it, it just seemed incredibly toned down. And I think that came out on the Friday or the Saturday of the conference. Like,
yeah, somewhere around there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So it is.
Yes.
There we are.
Yes.
We are the circle of life.
Well, and people mentioned, like, there was like that failed social network by Google called Circle, and it looks a lot like it was taken out. It's very reminiscent of that style. So that happened in the middle. Then kind of coming out of it, you had, the new ETH directors, which was seen very positively. And then the idea of like, a US crypto reserve, which was, so like, there was this whole, like, unfortunately, it kind of hit the dip of that sentiment when people were around there. But I did feel that like there was lots of conversations about kind of meme coins being dead or that cycle being over, comparisons to NFTs with that, and people were talking a lot about, we still had not seen the full security audit report of the BitBite hack, but people were like, a lot of people were talking about security, how to handle those kind of compromises, like, what to do about that, at least among the people I was talking to. How about you?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, just saying with the ETH again. So on March the 1st, which I guess was the Sunday,
yes,
near the end. So they announced 2 co-directors for the ETH. I can't pronounce her name. Xiaowei Wang. And Thomas. So Thomas is the CEO of Nethermind. So
you know him pretty well, right?
I know him a bit. Right. Yeah. And I mean, he's great. Nethermind have done fantastically over the last few years. Grown from a very small kind of team into hundreds of people doing all kinds of different things beyond just the client. So yeah, I mean, he's deeply embedded in that ecosystem, but also knows how to run organizations and has successfully done so. So that combination of having, that kind of respect and integrity within the group, but also having practical experience is, that's
you're saying Nevermind's big, right? Nevermind's like hundreds of people. So.
I think I had heard this news, but like, why 2? I don't know. I can't look into Vitalik's brain, but like, they replaced 1 ED with 2 EDs. And the old ED like rotated into the president role. Like,
yes, that's right. So
what does this mean? I don't know. Not that you have any insight into it, but
I don't have any particular insight. I mean, I think it was taken as sort of a way to bring in new blood without burning any bridges. I think that's the way most people looked at it.
Theoretically, you might be able to get double the work done. They probably have tremendous cash reserves to it's not trying to like minimize on cost, but like we'll see if it like creates. Usually, it's a bad sign if you see like a public company with a CEO and like a co-CEO or all that sort of like. Also, it's like classic VC advice. It's like, come back when you decide which one of you guys is the CEO.
I had that said to me many times. Yes,
You don't think you're not so worried? It sounds like
it is. I guess like it's sort of a unicorn skill set what you're looking for, because you're looking for someone you're looking for people who have a sort of goal orientation that's aligned with the community and operational experience. And I think, candidates has always been sort of a trade-off between those. And maybe they thought by bringing in two, they could have a better mix of skills. I mean, that's the optimistic way to look at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, so she's more research side and he's more engineering side.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of ish.
Yeah.
I guess so.
So, I mean, the other thing is at the EF, they are always looking to kind of like diffuse and pull things apart and like, well, decentralize really, away from a monolithic. So it's actually quite on
that's on brand.
On brand for them to have an ambiguity.
Like if you look at that advisory group, whatever, the Sylvan Horticulture.
Who's in charge? Everyone and
yeah, exactly. But a lot of those people are like serious, security researchers, right? So so you have a mix of like, even though the branding of it is kind of horrible, you can see that there is this orientation of like, a more serious nature toward fighting off hacks. So I think, and in the conversation with BitByte it's interesting how, when the DAO came up, the vector of attack was the contracts themselves and the EVM. And we haven't seen an attack like that in a very, very long time. Now it's really about, the weak point is the people, right? Like, and you're targeting that area of the side. So, that's kind of an interesting development, I think.
I mean, the other thing that was announced, which I don't know so much about, is there is another group called Etherealize. And the description is all roads flow through ETH. We are an institutional product, BD, and marketing arm for the Ethereum ecosystem. So they're not part of the EF, but I think they are funded and supported by partnerish kind of thing. And Danny Ryan, where there'd been the call for him to go back to the EF and become the ED, he is instead part of that group. So again, I think that's, again, is totally on topic, is right. Okay, there are these sort of BD-ish things and marketing-y things that we want to have happen, but they can't, but it's not an EF thing, but they can exist as well, and it can be.
Well, I'm a bit biased because,
right.
I'm one of the founders and a board member on the EA, the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. So it's kind of doing similar things, but this is a for-profit company and that's a non-profit. So it's interesting how they're kind of playing different cards here. I don't know what it all means. Like, it just seems like they're kind of throwing a lot of stuff up at the wall right now.
It's sort of always been the ethos, right? Like there's, obviously consensus, which we're all a part of in the early days. Just like, it's a loose collective of people with the Ethereum, at least in part, oriented mission. Maybe maybe it's more resilient this way. It's like
I think there's more, the feeling though in general is that there's a lot more competition now, and that competition is much more focused. Like if you look at the comparison between like Solana, for example, comes up a lot, and they're very, very focused and run much more centralized, right? And Ripple is too. So that's who you're kind of competing against. There's a lot more kind of very intense competition now.
Yeah. One wonders if blockchains are more like companies or more like nations, where like if they're more like companies, maybe you want it to be kind of top down. If they're more like nations, maybe you want like a funny federalist experiment or something, which seems to be the.
I think there are nations that are very top heavy too, right? Like China, for example, is very like.
For sure.
Yeah, but it is an experiment. Like, I mean, you have Bitcoin still at the top, and they're truly decentralized, right? Like, the top two are truly decentralized. So we'll see how it evolves. It's still, I think, people in the Ethereum ecosystem seem to be kind of concerned about the level of competition, I would say. But that just might be that there are a lot of newer incumbents who haven't kind of seen it kind of play out as much, right? Like,
Could be book talk, like in the end, number does have to go up, but
I mean, I guess another issue that Ethereum has versus Bitcoin there is, even though you haven't really got like any kind of central part within that Bitcoin ecosystem, it's kind of very clear what Bitcoin is. So all of the companies that are participating in Bitcoin related stuff, you can all have a very similar theme and story. It's easier for them to collaborate on marketing themes and efforts and things, whereas like Ethereum is anything and everything.
But it's an infinite garden, man.
It's an infinite garden. Well, I can keep infinite gardening like up away in the safe place, but it's just harder, right? Because it's what would the marketing be for Ethereum? And
someone writes, I heard Block Ops engineers were the best. Can you talk more about that? I'll leave it up to the audience to guess whether the person who wrote that is a Block Ops engineer.
They are the best. But,
they absolutely are the best. I have maybe two more ETH Denver related things. Surprises, if any. Probably three more, excuse me.
I guess there were a lot of robots on the floor.
Robot dogs.
Robot dogs, people, humanoid robots, the AI sort of linkage into blockchain. That was like very, very front and center, I think, around. I think that came as a surprise to me. I didn't see anything like that at DevCon, for example.
No. I mean, I think it's like with AI, it's just like everything's got to have AI now.
Yeah.
So I think lots of AI blockchain projects that don't really make a lot of sense. I mean, saying kind of surprises. I went to a side event called RWA Day, and I was surprised by how much deja vu I was having back to 2014, 2016 era shallow ideas of thingy on a blockchain and it will be better, but there wasn't a lot more to it than that.
Well, as people who pitched that idea back in 2014, 2015, we have to own some of that. But I will say, the things people were tokenizing as that's the other thing. RWA has become this giant blanket term that kind of everyone wants and ill-defined, even though we were using it 3 years ago. But now it's kind of become everything from a stable coin to tokenized securities to collectibles, just anything you can think of is now an RWA. And so it's less clear now what that actually means. When you see that, lots of companies are using that as a marketing term, then when you ask them, you really have to dig into what it kind of means now. So that RWAs, I would say, the term has gone kind of mainstream, even if the ideas are still a little bit, vague in some ways.
I mean, I guess it's the same as NFT. It's that's just a category thing, and I guess a lot of people will assume, that's just monkey JPEGs, but it's actually anything which is non-fungible, which is just a massive range of things. Yeah. So I mean, I guess on RWA, it's sort of not bearer assets on chain, something, and NBAT and bats.
Yeah, I also feel that there was a lot of gloating by builders on meme coins, going hey, I guess building stuff. Yeah, building stuff really does matter. You can't just toss an idea up there. And I've heard that several times.
This will come back again in a different form.
Yeah, and we're going through the NFT cycle, meme coin cycle. Who knows what's next? But there's probably some more shallow thing in the cycle.
Okay. I have a thing to close on. I have a tweet here from a friend of mine, Parker. She's good people. I wouldn't say I know her super well, but she did a good ETH Denver takeaway. And I would like you guys to pick something from it and either violently agree or disagree with it each.
Okay.
Disagree would be better. We're trying to get viewers here, but
Should we like fight and well as we disagree?
Controversy drives engagement. We're too mild mannered on this one, but maybe in the long run, it's good for.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, my old eyes can't read that, man. You got bumped that up a bit. Okay. General attendance was notably smaller.
Yeah.
With yes, would agree with that.
No, not by line by line. I'm going to scroll through.
Okay.
One. I can send you this tweet also. Might be easier that way.
One of the ones earlier on was talking about apathy. Yeah, I saw that. Didn't know how much that's just me being a grumpy old man versus more general, but yeah, I think there was a good degree of people who've been around for a while feeling we're still not we've still not achieved a lot of these early goals. Here we are 10 years on. And maybe some of that also a little bit tied to the US elections of crypto president, right? We're going to be into a new era, right? It's all those headwinds of the past are going to be gone, and we're going to be in a happy place. And then that's kind of not really happened. Though it has obviously in terms of like SEC suits having been withdrawn over the last few weeks, that's certainly quite a phase shift, but
big rollback there.
Yeah.
All right, scrolling. Vic, violent disagreement.
We're moving too fast.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, violent disagreement. I haven't seen anything I really disagree with so far. Let's see. Significant turnover in VC. Growth stage trends are dead. Era of frothy valuations are over. Okay, well, I might violently disagree with that one.
Also, I believe Parker is at least to some extent a VC, so I think it may be in her interest to that valuations are down.
Like everyone was talking about hyperliquid. Plume had a huge, Plume had a huge day where they had a lot of people. They've reached 300 million in market cap very quickly. Though according to I think DeFi Llama, they have 5,000 TVL. Yeah, no shade on them. They're doing they have they had a lot of excitement from my understanding about it, and so they achieved kind of lift off. Hyperliquid, everyone was talking about, they've gotten billions. So it doesn't seem like there is a cap on that part of the market. It does feel like people are, I didn't feel like anyone thought we had hit a winter. I felt like more people were like, this is a bump in the road, and we haven't seen the end of this cycle yet. That was sort of more that's sort of more the vibe I got.
Coping and coping.
That might be, but there is that kind of thing. When we hit a winter, people are just very heads down, kind of focused. We didn't feel like that quite yet.
No. There was one line in there, if you could pull it back up again, that just caught my eye.
Yeah. One moment.
Could you just scroll up a little bit? Or maybe up. Oh yeah, here you go. So key themes and industry shifts, yeah. So the most widely accepted narratives are AI, meme coins, token launches, and stable coins. So it's kind of like there's not a lot.
Well, I would disagree with a portion of that. AI was definitely there. Stable coins was definitely there.
Yeah.
But meme coins and launchpads, those were very muted. They were way more like restaking, DeFi aggregation platforms.
Yeah.
Like that was way more present.
I didn't really see a lot of meme coins.
I didn't see any meme coin, token launchpad really. But restaking, all of those kind of things, like lots of DeFi kind of yield platforms there. So that's something.
For better or for worse, the Ethereum ecosystem seems to be being seen as the home of DeFi, where like the Solana ecosystem seems to be the home of memes. I'm sure they can both do both perfectly fine, but perception is reality, perhaps.
Well, and like it's like you said, the perception that tied to meme coins is not great for Solana right now. Like, not that it can't do other things, but it's really. But I do think tokens pass through some kind of. There was something in that about non-EVM systems, right? Like virtually all these tokens are on some EVM, blockchain somewhere, and I think that makes it easier to interoperate between these different DeFi platforms than the other ones.
Even like pivots of ancient other L1s to EVMs.
Yeah, exactly. Like Cardano, they launched their. We knew these people. They were the Haskell JVMs.
14 even.
Yeah, exactly. Like we worked with them back in the day, but they just added EVM support. So there's a huge trend toward that.
It's the what do they call it? Solidity, the JavaScript of the crypto ecosystem. Some people say the COBOL. It's just like, we're gonna die. I think.
But IOTA, Lisk, EOS.
I haven't heard that name in so long. Yeah.
Yeah, they're all like the way you revive. There were two paths to revive a dead L1, which is add EVM and become an L2. So
right? Or both.
Or both. In some cases, they do both. Yeah. So.
You know what? That's a good hot take to close on. But we should have the marketing team, tweet out these hot takes a little bit. That was a good duo you did there, finishing each other's sentences. Vancouver guys.
Yes, we're it's nice to be in the same physical location for a change.
The dry Canadian-ish, the dry Commonwealth humor, let's say. For both of you. All right. I am going to release you guys, and it's already, that was a good segment, but a good 45 minutes on this. So I'll do my ChatGPT walkthrough in fast form. And the folks who are not all that interested in ChatGPT coding, this is the end of the main segment. But if you are, there's a lot of alpha coming, let's say. See you. Okay, here we are. So, as a person who can write software reasonably well, and I have quite fond memories of my software writing days, which were some good amount in school, and then mostly for this company. Actually, I've never had a real job, but at the beginning, they did enough. Mostly it was led by our CTO, but I did actually write a bunch of code, both in the client itself and higher level. And so I've had this desire to kind of get back into it forever, as we've had sort of business model evolution of the years. It's it mostly not made sense for me to code, but it actually is starting to feel like I should do some again. Once the space is very fast moving, and I've taken some time to just come up to speed on the state of the art in the last sort of year plus. And some of this, I think, requires an experimental approach. And also, the AI is pretty good now. And so, the thing that takes a long time, so I still have, most of the coding circuitry, and then can understand it an architectural level and roughly what is going on. And I think the thing that takes a while to get back up to speed is getting into the flow of development, what various functions are called, how to deal with this error message, like how to get into a loop where how do you get your build environment set up, your some of that is still not solved. But so if you know pretty much what you need the software to do, it seems like what the AI does is sort of like lets you lay the thing out as you maybe would design the thing for a junior developer who then fills in the details. But also it actually can come up with some of the architectural stuff itself. And I will go quickly into a specific example. It's pretty good at different languages. It knows Solidity kind of well. It could do a bunch of our stack is in Haskell, which is still kind of an obscure language. I would say it's probably a little more popular when we started the business than it is now. Although it tends to be used in certain intense applications like financial services and all that sort of thing, where like correctness with pretty good performance is important. But it speaks Haskell pretty good too. So it seems. So. And in particular, I think what I've seen, like the O3 mini high OpenAI model is maybe the best right now at this particular question, but they're all getting pretty good. It's remarkable that you can, if you kind of Socratically guide the AI, it is both good at some of the big picture stuff and then having it work on the lower level stuff. So I'm going to show a little bit of a transcript of a conversation I had with it. And, not in enormous detail, but I was surprised is that, this is something we actually want to do pretty soon at the business and probably will. And it helped, and it so much so that, I could get most of a working prototype working in like a couple hours. So the problem I wanted to present to the AI, we always have had something of a mass market focus at Block Apps, be it businesses or consumers, and just trying to smooth out all the edges so that people can work with, the existing analogies, the way they interact with software today, especially before crypto was quite popular, with crypto as well. And we've always wanted to do it in a way that didn't make it like a, centralized exchange or something where the UX is, often quite good, depends. It's point click, but you're kind of stuck with centralization. So we're trying to make it so that you don't have to make that choice. So lately we're sort of, we're saying everyday or consumer DeFi, if you will, kind of enabled by the assets we support, stables, metals, certain high market cap crypto, that sort of thing. So the platforms, and maybe I'll just show the transcript at this time. Here we go. All right. So here's the question I posed to it. Platforms like Venmo and Zelle and PayPal before them have viral functionality in the following sense. You can pay someone who isn't in the system yet, and they claim their funds after they sign up. How could you have a similar UX with crypto in the most decentralized way practical? I've been aware of answers to this question, but didn't want to spend a lot of time thinking about it myself or dig up answers. I've had my own to it, and it did a pretty decent job, in my opinion. I'm still not sure that these things are perfectly secure or what have you, thinking this through. All right, one decentralized approach is let senders create claimable vouchers directly on chain. Here's how it might work. So there's a smart contract for claimable payments. You kind of deposit funds into the smart contract. There's a voucher that you would transmit out of band, and you would store the hash of the secret on chain and transmit the secret out off chain. So there's sharing via SMS, email, messaging app. So you don't need the person to have a wallet right away. You can just kind of invite them to it. You've put the funds, in escrow in a sense, and they can go claim them. They can sign up when they've set up a wallet and submit this voucher. There could be a timeout and reclaim function. If the person doesn't do it fast enough, you can go pull the funds back. So I thought it was pretty good. I asked some other questions in the middle here, so I don't want people to just read this, but I was like, okay, at first that seems kind of sensible and similar to something I've thought about before. Let me skip this. And then I thought about it. I had it generate the code. I thought it more. So it actually produced, fairly idiomatic Solidity code. I just went and ran the code on the platform. Maybe I didn't run this version right away. I think I read it first. You still need to read the code, kind of see if what it's doing is sensible. Oh, you can see there's like a little typo here, as a for instance. Describes how it works. But this is the part that was impressive. So I thought about it a little, and then I thought you could probably front run this. And so I asked this question. Suppose a miner staker got a hold of the transaction with the secret. Couldn't they front run the transaction and steal the money? So to explain further, so there's a hash on chain, and no one yet knows what the secret associated with that hash is. But when you submit the transaction, it has to be in the clear text. So if you're a miner, you could then pull that hash out of the transaction and then resubmit yourself with that secret and claim the funds. I'm sure this, like when you first deployed this wouldn't happen like right away. But if you're, at large scale usage of this sort of pattern, I think you would find that it's profitable to front run, and so it would start to happen. There's kind of a lot of front running, and I don't really know that, like, what does maximum extractable value really mean? And miners will reorder transactions and blocks to make the most money, and probably are willing to go a little bit further, at least in some cases, to make more money. They're pretty, clearly profit oriented, right? And once you had a piece of software that was doing this, you could just deploy it automatically and make more money than you're doing otherwise. You probably would, right? And so it thought about it and it said, okay, and ChatGPT is a little deferential, like it wants to tell you you're right, but I think I am right on this one. And it said, okay, yes, it's a valid concern. Basic design, miner staker could see the transaction while it's pending and front run it. And it came up with a solution and I think this commit reveal solution does work. So basically what you would do is in separate blocks, have the claimer register the address. So the wallet gets created, then you register the address. And this is like forgetting about gas, like for the time being. I think there are other workarounds for no gas transactions, but let's leave that out of scope for now. And then after the contract is locked to the withdrawal, to the recipient, then you submit the secret. A miner could try to front run that secret, but it would be locked. It's locked to that particular address, and it's not like they have your private key. So you could sort of mess with the smart contract, but wouldn't be able to reclaim the funds because it would do an address check. So I think it does actually fix the problem. And I asked, like, okay, can you clarify? Like, this answer here wasn't. Maybe just the phrasing wasn't perfectly clear for me the first time. It does do a pretty good, when it spells it out, it's a pretty clear explanation. And yeah, so locking it to the address is the important point. And it took me a second to see what it was saying. Then I asked it to write code for it. Also switching from Ether to like a different style of asset. There's tons of assets that you might want to do this with. Maybe it's like I said, stables, tokenized metals for us, what have you. And it generated pretty good code. I mostly just ran this in our dashboard interface. I would just kind of post this thing and run it. Let's get an explanation here. There was a slight, okay, so yeah, I didn't run this one right away. It sort of had forgotten to separate some of the steps because it assumed in the way it was written that you knew the recipient's address ahead of time. And so, but then I gave it that feedback and it did, in fact, separate those steps. So that you see there's a separate commit. So deposit a commit, and a reveal. Reveal also just being withdraw, basically, in this case. And there's reclaim if the person doesn't grab it within, say, 24 hours. It also helped with testing. So, like, there was something either it got wrong, or maybe a bug in our Solidity implementation, excuse me. And we got this error message, and I asked it to make a light change, and then this version of the contract did actually just compile. And then there's more stuff you need to do to test this thing. Like, you need a sample ERC20 style contract, and it gave me one, and I think it just worked. It gave me the parameters to test it with, and I asked for sample values, and it mostly worked. So there's a timestamp you had to calculate, and like the UTC format. This, all these little headaches that, like, maybe if you were fresh in your mind, you would remember, like, oh yeah, like just call this function, or how do I get, like, what's a good default value here? But it mostly just figured it out. I gave it the time and asked it for a UTC timestamp. I think I had to clarify that it was Eastern time, and it figured it out here. It actually got a hash wrong, and so it was taking me a while to figure this out. And I'm pretty sure when I point out this, and maybe again it's being obsequious, but that this hash, like it somehow calculated the hash function incorrectly. So little things like that you have to be aware of. You got to kind of fact check it on small details, syntactical things, etc. And it even gave me a means to test it, and I did do this. I think I had to slightly modify this contract, and then when I did so, I could verify this result. I asked it for the expiry again, and so on. So again, this is over a couple hours in maybe 2 phases, but it became clear to me that the little things that keep me from writing software, just like getting back into the flow, generating examples, yada, 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 stuff that's like details to fill in above and beyond what it was, in this case, a hopefully largely correct vision of what needed to be done. It can mostly do. And that's remarkable, So lean in on the AI. Try to code a little more. Obviously, it's never going to be a full-time thing for me, but good to be, back in the trenches some of the time, occasionally making features and also just, testing our system. Like it's great to get hands-on both with the kind of more consumer side of the product, the marketplace, and the developer side of the product as well. So that said, ChatGPT pretty much can code. It's quite good. It's at like a faster, maybe slightly dumber human level, but it's really good on the details that humans cause us headache and are also prone to getting wrong. So that is remarkable. Like it does feel then like, maybe our CTO likes to say the singularity moment is when code is good at making code better. If you get the kind of exponential effect, and maybe that's like 6 months out. I don't know. It feels pretty close. I think we're all going to survive, but my P doom is like 10%. So, but there's no fucking stopping it. So, anyways, I shouldn't curse. Thanks everybody. Happy Wednesday. Hope this was interesting and entertaining for everyone, and we'll be back next week.